Hi, I'm Rita Hartsock, and I am a craftsperson who does mixed media collage type work, and I'm here to show you a little bit about what my technique is and hopefully inspire you to try some of the same. So the first thing we're going to do in making our mixed media piece is put some color on the back of our paper. This is a heavyweight paper. It was basically for an acrylic weight, but I think you could use watercolor, pretty much any kind of slightly heavier cardstock that you have for this part of the process. I'm going to be adding distress oxide inks to my Jeli plate. There's lots of ways to get this product onto the paper. This is the way that I like to do it, but you could just as easily do it with a sponge, a makeup sponge, or other type products. So I'm going to tap a little bit of color onto my Jeli plate and mix it up a little bit so that I've got a good splash of color here and there. And then we're going to kind of smush it all around with a brayer just to kind of break up our hard edges and just blend the colors a little bit. Don't want to over blend. Then we're going to take the textured side of my paper and I'm going to press it onto the Jeli plate. And we'll see what we get. There we go. We have a nice background. Now, this type of ink is also water reactive. So I'm going to take just a second and dry this a little bit, and then we'll splash some water on it and see what we get. This is a heat tool. This puts warm air. It's used for lots of different things in the craft world. There we go. Now, I'm going to pick up some water with just a fan brush. And tap, 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 tap. And we're not getting much reaction from this. Not like I expected, but that's okay. We'll give it a few minutes to work and see what we get. See how it's kind of starting to move a little bit? We'll let it work just a second or two. Okay, I have used my heat tool and dried the water that I applied, and you can see where we've got some modeling, and the distress oxide inks have moved around and made it just a little bit soft. It's not as soft as I had wanted it to be, but it's still a pretty background, and we're going to keep working with it, okay? So the next step will be to add a little bit of stenciling to this piece. We're going to add some color. I'm going to use kind of start doing a little bit of a starkness here with some black ink and a dauber. I'm not going to move it like I wanted it to. There we see we got some texture. So that's a visual texture that kind of helps break up the background a little bit. And really this process now is all about adding layers and layers of texture to give things for your eye to move around the page and look at. Yeah. A little bit more here, and then we'll move on to another step. There we go. And what's kind of cool about any of this process is if you go back or you get to a point where you're like, ooh, that's really a bare spot and I need to add something else, you can always go back and add more layers. It's a very forgiving process from that standpoint. Okay, next thing. So I'm using a sheet from an old dictionary. I love using vintage materials, especially dictionary pages, and music book pages are wonderful resources. I got a lot of these at the library down in the basement from the Friends of the Library sales. So there's lots of places in our town to go and get resources to do mixed media with. So I'm just kind of doing a real tear, trying to think about where I want these to show up at. Real random. We'll put another one right here. And maybe we'll add another one here. Here we go. Then we're going to do some stamping after this. Okay. Okay, I've kind of decided to place these in some of the open area, covering a little bit of my stenciling, but just to kind of give it a cohesive look, like it's kind of melding together is my thought process here. You know, if I put them way over here, they look like they're not part of the picture almost. So that's why I want them to kind of connect and be part of what's already on my piece. So I'm using a glue stick, and I'm just going to put a little bit on the back and get these down. And we'll trim off any extra that we have that's hanging off. There we go, they're down. Okay guys, well while we were away, I was cleaning my brayer and my gel plate, and I wanted to show you this cool baby wipe that I've got now that I'll let this dry, and this can be ephemera or a background of a piece. I can glue it down and makes another layer to another project. So don't throw anything away. Okay, we are now ready to decide how to finish the edges of these pieces that I've added. I think that I'm going to wrap them to the back and make a nice edge across here instead of having it all torn and jaggedy. That's my decision as to do. So I'm going to flip it over and put a little bit of adhesive on those and get them out of our way. They could just as easily have been torn. Again, that's an artist's choice, how you want to handle your piece. Makes it nice and smooth and a clean edge that way. Okay, we are now ready to add some rubber stamping to this piece, and then we'll almost be done. So I have this stamp set that we're going to be stamping in black. I'm inking my stamp. I'm going to pick it up. See, they got a good coating of ink on the back. I'm going to add it to my piece. You can use the bottom of a casserole dish. Makes a good thing to hold the stamp as well. See, we got a nice clean image. And we'll pick up a couple more. Let's see if this gets taller here. Just making sure I've got lots of ink on the back. Get a nice strong contrast to what we've got going on already. need something just, I've got some lower height going on, but I need something just a slightly bit taller to kind of draw our eye up. So I think I will use this piece, and we'll do 2 or 3 of those together in a cluster to give it some volume. In order to make this a little bit taller, I've obviously got a little missing down here. We'll take a pencil and finish that out. Everything doesn't have to fit perfect. We can always alter it with another medium. There we go. And see, I've got 4. And visually, I really need to have about 5 different things to make a good presentation. So we'll pick one more piece. Oop. There we go. Now I'm going to take my charcoal pencil and just kind of finish those off. And no one will ever know our stamp was only that height. There we go. Okay. Okay, we're going to add another image. We've got some empty space that I'm not comfortable with. I'd like to have it filled, and I have a butterfly. It's a little hard to see. You'll see her better in a minute. And we're going to, in order to be able to control this cling stamp better, I'm going to put it onto the bottom of this glass piece so that I can now use it like a regular stamp, okay? So we're going to ink her up. Make sure we get a good coverage. She's not wanting to ink so well. Slow but sure. Now, there we go. That's better. And notice that I'm not putting this image all the way over on the page. I want it to come to look like the butterflies coming in from the side and give it a little more visual interest. So I'm pressing hard. So I may have to take a charcoal pencil and work out the rest of that wing, but we're pretty close. Now we're going to do one more. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to come in from the side. Slightly off the page. Yeah, there we go. Much better. So now I'm going to take my graphite pencil. We're going to see if we can work this wing out just a little bit. Maybe I need my charcoal pencil. Yeah, there we go. So as you can see, things happen and you figure out a way. No one will ever know. Now, so our piece is basically done. Obviously, you could do a lot more to it if you wanted to, but you have to be careful and not overdo or overclutter your image. You want to keep it visually appealing, and your eye can move around, and we see all kinds of texture, and the stamping and the symmetry of the flowers just makes it a very pleasing appearance. Okay. So here's our finished piece. What makes this mixed media is the fact that we've used inks, we've used rubber stamping, We've used vintage papers, different types of things that all have come together to make one pleasing piece. You could use lots of other things, obviously any kind of pigment to get color down. You can use magazine pages, you can use things that you've drawn. There's no limit to what you guys could do with this. I would probably use this piece now, and I don't have to put any kind of sealer on it. All of these materials dry and are sealed. You could if you wanted, especially if you wanted it to be really high gloss. You could go back with a glossy finish and cover this if you chose. This would be nice then in a little black mat in a black frame, or the front of a journal, or in your art journal. You could just glue it in as a page in your art journal. Okay. I also don't want to fail to mention that we use pencils, graphite and charcoal pencils, as another type of media on our piece. I've added some of my artist trading cards here that I just kind of do. I trade with groups and different things, and some of the different techniques I've used. Love to use old papers on the back sometimes to give them another level of interest. The base here is is watercolor. Standard artist trading card is 2.5 by 3.5, and lots of people do those, and they trade them and have lots of fun with them. Okay, just to give you guys another idea, if you want to do something more fun, this is kind of serious. This was a NyQuil ad I found on the back of a magazine, and this came out of a Soki magazine, and I thought this would be so cool to put onto a canvas and pretend like he's either releasing the butterflies from his tummy, or I also have these music notes, and it could be that he's singing, and this is his marquee that he's going to Vegas. So just another thought to making a mixed media piece. Hi, I'm Rita Hartsock, and I am a crafts person who does mixed media collage type work, and I'm here to show you a little bit about what my technique is and hopefully inspire you to try some of the same.